morning, everybody. How are you? It is amazingly the end of the semester. I cannot believe how fast time has gone. I wanted to come to you this week via podcast regarding Block's ethics. I think podcast is the best way to get some of this information, particularly as we are coming up on the end of the semester. Again, I try to give as much time as I can back to you because I know we have two huge projects coming due here at the end of the term. So what we need to do is we've been talking about consulting and roles and shine and block and all of this stuff. Now we need to roll up this idea of ethics and in some ways begin to kind of wrap our course up. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit. So without further ado, we're going to turn to some slides. So as we begin to switch gears and we move away from thinking about what is it meant to do consulting and to be a consultant and how you actually implement the idea of change within an organization, we have talked about so many theories and practices. We've heard from outside speakers. You've heard from all of us about our own experiences in the world of consulting. But tonight, let's switch our gears away from how and what, right, into the why, and really kind of understand the principles that undergird the foundation, specifically the idea of ethics and experience. I want to draw our attention to some things that Block talks about. So Block talks a lot about the idea of consulting and the work of consulting as a profession focused on helping and caring. Now, let that sink in for a minute. That consulting is primarily there for helping and for caring rather than as an occupation focused on selling and making money. Now, many of you work in large-scale organizations. How many of you have run into consultants where you feel like all they're trying to do is sell you? All they're trying to do is make money rather than helping and caring. So what might be in your own life? Let's reflect for a moment. What might be in your own life some examples of this? Some very specific and salient examples of when you've encountered perhaps maybe the opposites of that, where you have run into somebody who you felt like they were listening, they were genuinely interested, they were involved in a partner with you in collaborating, and they cared about it, versus the other piece of that, which is where they're selling something constantly. I've certainly run into my fair share of these kinds of consultants in my own professional experience, both at the cruise line and also at the university. Now, there are some differences here that we may want to think about in terms of how this works for external consulting versus internal consulting. Certainly, there are interesting and unique dynamics with that. But make no mistake about it, and don't miss this, that the idea of consulting, as it's defined by Shine and as it's defined by Block, is primarily centered on the idea of helping and caring, not on selling something, not on the next project, but rather being focused on what's happening within the present. Remember that our guest speaker talked about being in the moment, being present with your client and what that was like. If we move on to some other ideas here, Block also talks about different types of approaches, but he specifically talks about traps. He talks about the traps of the consultant. I would encourage you to read through that Block text and dissect that final chapter that's posted up on Blackboard to really understand what he's talking about when we say the word trap, right? And then thinking about how you might even overcome some of these things, right? If you believe they exist. And I happen to be of the mindset that these kinds of traps do exist for consultants. Not only have I fallen into these traps myself, but I've experienced them as an outsider. So think about the approach that you've taken in your hallmark. So this is an opportunity, right, for us to really begin to pull everything together. Thinking about what it means for your specific project, for your specific experience, and then retrospectively reflect back and think about how your experience has paralleled the things that Shine and Block have talked about. How is it that you've perhaps stepped in the river here? Is it the same? Is your client the same? Is your stakeholder the same? Tell me a little bit about this, right? Explain it. Share with me. Share back with us. Think about, reflect on what it's been like for you to step in this particular river. Where might you have found yourself? As we begin to kind of wrap up our session, for the entire semester, there's a couple of questions that I might leave you here with. What successes or failures have you had in teaching versus learning, right? And encouraging learning instead of teaching. So thinking about the mantra that Shine says, that how we teach other people, right? How we help other people, how we engage in the idea of learning, right? So what successes and failures have you had? What's it been like encouraging learning instead of teaching others, right? What do you think of the recommendations about that Block might make, in addition to some of the traps, but when he says to stop asking how and instead ask why? Not how does this happen, but why does this happen, right? Not what is happening, but why is it happening? How do you recognize the strengths and weaknesses that come in freedom with constraints, right? What does that mean? How can something be free and constrained at the same time? And you might reflect for a moment on your own relationship with your stakeholder and in your own consulting experience. And then what are some lasting lessons that you might even reflect on? At the end of the day, what do these texts mean for you? How have they impacted your practice? What will you do differently as a result of being in this particular class? Well, I hope that was a helpful discussion, particularly regarding ethics and Block. I do want to take a minute to thank you and thank everybody for our time this semester. This is going to be the last real content that we have. We have presentations coming up, more information to come about that. Don't worry about that. Don't get hung up on that or lose sleep over that in the next couple of days. I'll send a bunch of information about that. But I think you'll agree this has been a great semester. I hope it's been fantastic for you. I have immensely enjoyed our time together. So I want to thank everybody for their time and for just the energy that you put into the class this semester. It's been outstanding. So with that, be on the lookout for more announcements coming through Blackboard in the coming days and weeks, and we'll be in contact soon. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I hope I get to see you in another class soon in our program, and for those of you who are getting ready to graduate, I can't wait to shake your hand as you walk across the stage. Guys, until next time, take care.